Hello and welcome to the Solution Focused Toolkit. We are here every Monday, and as a listener, you are in the people business, social care, youth work, etc. And we're here every Monday to remind you you've got the greatest job in the world. You are helping people. My name's Michael Dawson from the Action Factory Training, and here on this podcast, we look at life through a solution-focused lens. And as promised last week, I did say I wanted to talk about why you might not need training in the solution-focused approach. It can be a bit controversial to say this, but the geeks, the academics of solution-focused world would have you believe that you need formal training in the solution-focused approach. But do you? This is the question. So let's say you have a problem, okay, and you go to someone, whether that be a friend or whatever, and they might say, well, okay, yeah, pull up a chair. Let me tell you how I've had similar problems, and let me nod my head at the right time, and let me tell you how I understand, because I've had similar things happen to me, and let me tell you how I can help. Let me suggest answers for you. Let me tell you what to do next, and let me even physically help. Okay, so a lot of those things do sound and even feel quite helpful, to sit and talk about your problem and to even share the problem and sit around the same table, whether that be metaphorically or not. There are some other people around, and you probably know who these people are. These are people that kind of just listen. They really just listen. And they respect your position, the position that you're coming from. They almost get involved in kind of your world. They kind of get on board with where you're coming from. And instead of offering solutions, they kind of probe and inquire. They're curious. They just want to know, tell me a little bit more about that and tell me how you came to that decision. And often they will repeat back to you things so that you're really sure they understand where you're really sure that they understand where you're coming from. And one of the main things is they tend to put a positive spin on things. They tend to point out your strengths and abilities and how you've been through things like this before, and it'll all come good in the end. And in some strange way, they tend to help you come to a conclusion, often yourself. So, you know who these people are. You've been drawn to these people. You know who they are around you. You know who they are as your friends, your family. You know who you go to, and you know who kind of just makes you feel better, even if you can't put your finger on it. So, which of the above people I've just described is trained in solution-focused brief therapy approach? Well, clearly, none of them. None of them. It could be your mother, it could be your best friend. So how does that work then? I mean, it's curious when you think about it in this way. How does it work that people who are not trained in the solution-focused approach can be so damn good at it? Well, here's the reason. Because there are solution-focused people. Okay. What we have to remember is that the solution-focused approach and NLP, neuro-linguistic programming, were designed around mirroring real people who just naturally approach life this way. It wasn't the other way round. It was normal everyday people who showed people like Im-Soo King-berg and Steve DeShazer how they were so successful at what they did in dealing with people who were experiencing life problems. So I think that's a fascinating realization. Nobody trained the people who invented the solution-focused approach. They just were. So remember, in the early days of Im-Soo King-berg, Steve DeShazer developing the approach, they studied hundreds and hundreds of therapists, and they looked at the ones that were successful. Yeah, and what they found were that these people were the people who were naturally more positive, who kept a positive spin on things. They just were. And what's fun about this idea is that those people still exist. It could be you, it could be a colleague, and it could be a friend. You know who these people are. That it's not as if, there's anything fantastic or dramatic about this. These people are magnetic. They draw people to them. And they've got all kinds of different names. We say they're laid back, and I'll go and see Joe. He's really laid back and he doesn't get into me ribs about things and problems, or such and such. He's just a great listener. I just really needed a great listener. And it always reminds me, when you talk about listening, it reminds me of the story of Winston Churchill at a time of great trauma in British history, when he was planning what to do about the invasion. There's a famous story. I can't quote the guy who went. He went to consult with Winston Churchill, and Winston Churchill talked for, I think, over an hour about the all options and alternatives and everything. And the guy left the room, and Winston Churchill thanked him and said, "I've come to a decision. I know what I'm going to do." And when the guy left the room, he said, I realised I virtually said nothing. I virtually said nothing in there. He just used me to talk. So what's the takeaway here? I think what we've got to do is recognise, like in most industries, there are the academics, and they want to complicate the approach. They want to give certificates and pieces of paper, and they want to have pieces of paper, and they want to tell you there's a right and wrong way to deal with people. Now, I would say be aware of those who are naturally inclined to be better with people, and yes, you can train to be better with people yourself. And we all work with people. You do, I do, at various levels and capacities. I've done it most of my life. And they do not work to a particular formula. And the more we go into this podcast and the more we talk, we're going to realise how fascinating human beings actually are in their approach. So yes, you can train the solution-focused approach. But I speak to so many clients we've trained who say how this has enhanced their personal lives, their relationships, families. This is people who have gone in to do some training with us on the solution-focused approach to help them in their work, because this approach works everywhere as long as there's another human being opposite you. So remember, natural or trained, it could be you, it doesn't matter. You will never get any paper or certificates from us. Thanks for listening. We're the Action Factory, and this was the Solution Focused Toolkit. And thanks for being there. Please remember, we're here every Monday morning to remind you, you are working with people. You've got the greatest job ever. Really interesting. Next episode, I'm going to be talking about the Big Four. Big Four, a huge chunk of research that shows how you can improve the way that you deal with your clients. Thanks for listening, and we'll talk soon.